What's up, guys? Welcome to Dynasty Drip. Today, we are back at you with Flex Friday, where we give you defense streamers, kicker streamers, QB, tight end streamers, and then some of our favorite, deeper flex plays. If you haven't been to the channel before, make sure to hit like, hit subscribe, leave a comment. But to start the show off, I got my main man, Andy, talking about his favorite DST streamer for the week.
That's right. We are starting back across the pond with the Cleveland Browns defense, only rostered in 2% of leagues, which is probably for a good reason. They have not had very good showings, except when they played my Packers. But they've also played a murderer's row of offenses. Healthy Cincy, Baltimore, Green Bay, Detroit, and now they get to play the Vikings with Carson Wentz at quarterback. Wentz had a good game. Great call last week, Sam. Good game against the Steelers, but he also threw 2 picks, so he's going to make some mistakes. Vikings have allowed the second highest pressure rating and the highest sack percentage in the league. Now they have Darisaw back, which should help a little bit, but on the other side of the ball, the Browns have the second highest pressure rating. So I think Wentz is going to be under duress. I like him to make a mistake. And also the Browns starting a rookie QB could be a kind of rallying point for this team. We saw it with the Giants last week where Dart didn't necessarily play phenomenal. He played well, but it seemed like the whole team really stepped their game up all across the board just because they actually had some hope for the future. And, that could be the same case with the Browns this week. We'll see if they go full give-up mode or what I think is going to happen is they're going to have a little bit of a rally and at least play some decent football.
Yeah, and just like you said, I think actually the Browns defense probably is a top 10 defense. They just had a bad offense and they've been playing some good offenses basically. So game scripts have been rough for them because they've been on the field a lot. But however good fantasy wise Carson Wentz was last week, I don't think he was great as an actual NFL player. He just was kind of playing catch up mode. So I'm with you, man. Yes, they get Darisaw back. Last week they were playing 3 backup offensive linemen. We'll see which one of those guys are able to come back. But also something that's very common with offensive lineman injuries is they might play, then they bang their ankle up again and they leave for half the game. And so it could be some sacks or a pick or something like you're saying. I think that's kind of the vibe that I'm picking up as well. Moving on to another game that's kind of very sack dependent as well. My streamer for the week is going to be the Giants going up against New Orleans. New Orleans obviously not an offense you dread playing this year. And I do think the Giants have a little more energy, and they have a great pass rush. So for me, I think they might force some mistakes, force some sacks, maybe turn this game into a little messy, hopefully get a turnover or something like that. This one's probably a little deeper. I just think the Giants might be a little better with Dart, but we don't fully know. I think I'm just hoping for honestly just a good pass rush against New Orleans and maybe force Spencer Rattler to make some mistakes.
Yeah, I think betting on Spencer Rattler to make a couple mistakes is a pretty good bet. That's something that I would be willing to take, especially with the pass rush that they have. So I think that's a pretty solid play.
So Andy's going back to his main man Reichard from last week at kicker streamer. Just loving those Europe games.
Yeah, we're going back to the well here. I think it's going to be a low scoring game. Hopefully the Browns don't get their mitts and block another one. But I think field goals are going to be really important in this game. And so I think the Vikings are going to have to settle for some field goals, and I think they will because I don't think there's Cleveland offense. So
I think the Vikings would be a great play as well. They're just not really a streamer, to be honest. I think at this point, you're playing the Vikings, and I wouldn't consider them a defensive streamer, but it could be a gross game. I see a version of this game. I'm going to love it because I'm going to be sitting there at 8 a.m. with a cup of coffee, but I don't know. My streamer for the week is going to be Jason Myers. Obviously, the Seahawks kicker going up against the Bucks. Something about the Bucks, man. Always high-scoring games. I feel like every Bucks game high-scoring. Jason Myers, less than 50% owned, less than 50% started. Pretty surprising for the kicker 3 on the year. So for me, just add this guy, play him. I think Seattle's offense has been just a little better than everyone thought. I think even including myself, I was a little lower on Darnold, and I think he looks pretty good, honestly. I think that offense, along with that defense, is just a pretty good team right now.
Yeah, the Seahawks in general look pretty good. And, I think Myers, if he's on waivers, I think you just pick him up, and he's just your kicker for the rest of the year until they're on bye. Like you said, he's kicker 3 on the season, but, people don't tend to pay as much attention to kickers. So If he's
I
out
agree.
there,
I think there's like two types of kicker people: the ones that draft Aubrey and just play him all year, or stream all the time. So if you were in Group A, but you're kind of hating your kicker, Jason Myers might be a guy you're able to pivot to. Talk about a team that isn't looking so great, but because of that, we may be able to get some garbage time points for them. Bryce Young and the Carolina Panthers.
That's what I'm hoping for. Hopefully, you grabbed up a Justin Fields on waivers or one of those other guys who I think is going to be a little bit of a better start. But for somebody who's out there, I think Bryce Young has an absolutely fantastic matchup. Dolphins are 31st in points allowed to the quarterback, 31st in pass D DVOA, and even without Tyreek Hill, I think Miami will still be able to move the ball. So Carolina's still going to have to score some points. And I think he can get the ball to Tet enough to be, fantasy relevant for Bryce. And part of the reason is Miami's defense is 30th in pressure rate. And I think if you're not getting pressure on Bryce Young, he will be able to make some accurate throws and make some good decisions. It feels gross, but this is about the most optimal conditions you can have for starting Bryce Young this year.
Yeah, I'm with you. I think this could be a potential like Tet McMillan breakout kind of vibe game as well. He's been getting the target numbers, but he just gets an easier defense. I mean, last week, yes, Miami did beat the Jets, but Garrett Wilson had a great game. They ran the ball all over them. So I don't really expect it to be some sort of 10-7 game. I think this could get a little nasty as well. Yeah. My QB streamer of the week, going to be Jackson Dart. I mean, I think in general, passing the ball with no Malik Neighbors, we'll see kind of what that looks like. Could be a lot of short stuff. Maybe Darius Slayton gets more involved. But in general, I liked how much he was using his legs. And for me, there's enough upside there that if you're looking for a streamer, if he's going to get you 50-plus rushing yards, that's definitely someone that should be on your radar if you're looking for a new QB or you're playing, you have Jordan Love or something, right? You got someone on bye this week. Yeah. I really hope you weren't playing Aaron Rodgers. He also is on bye. I would not pick him up. But Jackson Dart, man, rushing ability. And I think, too, in addition to his rushing ability, I wouldn't be surprised to see them maybe showcase that on a read option or something in the goal line package with everyone probably going to Scattaboo. So I just like the floor that a rushing QB kind of brings you. And a rookie's going to be put in some spots where, they're just going to run him. He's not some 35-year-old afraid of getting hit. They're playing for his job. They're playing for Daboll's job. All hands on deck here, I think.
Yeah. And, the Saints' fifth best matchup in terms of points per game to opposing quarterbacks. And like you said, very willing to run. He's got the moxie. So, when I think something either starts to break down or his read's not there, he's just going to take off. And that is great for fantasy points.
Bad for NFL, great for fantasy points. And as predicted, a Carolina Panthers stack coming for Andy with our boy Tommy Tremble.
Yeah, this is probably the grossest stack you could possibly think of. I feel like this stack is like the Nasty Patty from SpongeBob. It's so gross. And hopefully the stack doesn't do to your fantasy team what it did to the health inspector. But Tommy Tremble was tight end 7 last week, and his backup Mitchell Evans was the tight end 10. Tremble had 8 targets and 5 receptions and a touchdown. And Jatavian Sanders is probably going to miss another game. So, Tremble is owned in approximately 0% of leagues when I check Sleeper. I'm sure he's owned somewhere, but he's 99% sure he's out there on your waivers. Even if you're in a dynasty league, he's out there in a lot of dynasty leagues. If you have Tucker Kraft, you might be able to go grab Tommy Tremble and play him this week. It's not going to be a better matchup. The Dolphins are 30th versus the tight end in scoring, 28th DVOA versus the tight end. So they're bad against all forms of passing, really bad against the tight end. So as gross as it is, I think this is a solid play.
Yeah, I mean, and just to double down on that, I did pick up Tommy Tremble in my 16-team Dynasty League last week. Didn't have to play him, luckily, but I got him. And to confirm what you're saying, yes, Jatavian Sanders has been ruled out, so should be similar usage to last week. I'm going with my favorite rapper for this week, Darren Waller. Yeah. Came out, dude, two tutties last week, only 29 yards. But the thing about Darren Waller is he looks like 7'7" compared to the other Dolphins wide receivers. So I think it makes a lot of sense that he's going to be a red zone target. It doesn't seem that hard to process it when you watch the Dolphins play. I love Malik Washington. I'm not throwing fade balls to Malik Washington when Darren Waller's sitting there. And if he was involved last week, I would expect, a similar package as well, especially no Tyreek Hill. So run him out there, dude. I mean, tight end is sketchy as it is. Like, this guy could be out there just sitting on your leagues. And if you're looking for some excitement, you got guys on bye, I say run Waller out there.
Yeah, and I think his snap share is only going to grow as the season goes on. Obviously, Jonnu had a great year with the Dolphins last year at tight end, and without Tyreek, we'll see what kind of form this offense takes shape. If Waller is each week, he's getting a little better and better, feeling a little bit more comfortable, he could be a guy who's a pretty solid start for the rest of the year. So definitely, I think he's a good start this week and somebody to hold on to in general.
Yeah, I feel like tight end for me is like, if you don't have a top 5 to 7 guy, like, it's just momentum. And if a guy has a good game, just ride him. And I mean, look, if he starts having some bad games, just dump him and move on. But Waller might be one of those guys. Talking about one of those guys, though, man, the guy of our podcast, Rashid Shaheed. We haven't picked him yet this week, so this is a ballsy one, but Andy's coming in hot with him.
This is our boy. I'm so glad he finally got to make the list. I've been dreaming about this since the season started. He's got a prime matchup versus the Giants, who are allowing the second most points to opposing wide receivers, which, crazy enough, is still only like 2/3 as many points as the Cowboys are letting up. I think Olave is a good start, but he's already being started in enough leagues. Giants, though, 32nd in DVOA versus the deep ball. Shaheed hasn't connected on one of those yet, but I feel like this would be the game where he gets one of those huge TDs. The Saints have attempted 16 passes over 20 yards, which is tied for 10th most, but only connected on 3 of them. Eventually, that's going to click. I think this is the best matchup for it. And so hopefully Shaheed brings it home for us once again as the star of our podcast.
I mean, we are always rooting for this guy. I'm definitely going to be putting in our Shaheed long TD bet for sure, because I want to be sitting there and I'm going to be rooting with Andy on the Shaheed play here. For me, my number one flex player here going to be Steffi Diggs. Revenge game Sunday night at Buffalo. Got that Cardi B baby juju going for him now. But to mention things other than just the vibes for Diggs to score or have a good game, whatever. Highest snap percentage of the year last week for Stephon Diggs, coming back from his ACL, and his just best game of the year. So I think, to me, it shows they might have been ramping him up a little bit. And as they ramped him up a little bit, he's just become more and more involved. When it comes to New England in general, I think they've been in some like higher scoring games. I think their defense may be getting turned around with Vrabel under the helm, but I don't think they're fully there as some like dominant force or anything. So they've been having to score points, and that should be no more true than playing Buffalo. So they're going to have to throw the ball, and Stephon Diggs is probably going to get peppered with another 6+ targets. So for me, if you've been rostering him, you probably, unless you called his best game of the year last week, you probably haven't played him yet, besides maybe week 1. I think this is the week you throw him back in, especially in that Sunday night, as I like to call it, the Sunday night, Monday night tiebreaker. If you don't know who to start and you're neck and neck on 2 guys, I always play the Sunday night guy because I want to be sitting there rooting for someone.
Yeah, I think those are all great points. And, I think wide receiver position, usually the biggest divas on the team, a little bit petty, and he's definitely going to be amped up. He's going to be hitting some of that pink powder before the game. And I think this is the game that he finally makes his mark for the Patriots. So I like it.
So now we're going to get into the next 2 players, basically just big waiver ads from this week. Andy, tell us about Amari DiMercato and what to expect out of the Arizona backfield.
This is the last man standing in a sense. I was really excited for Trey Benson to take on and show what he can do, but now that he's going to be missing at least 4 games, DiMercato goes up against the Titans, who have allowed the 3rd most rush yards to opposing running backs, 2nd worst rush D DVOA, so an absolutely fantastic matchup. However, granted, the Titans have been playing from behind pretty much every game, so teams have been running a lot on them. So DiMercato, I see him as a good volume play, and also he's a pretty decent pass catcher. I know he's come in and been the 3rd down running back in situations before, so if he can be very involved in the ground and then also catch some passes out of the backfield, I think he's got, a very solid floor with, obviously, if he gets in the end zone, you're extra happy with how he did.
Yeah, I'm definitely running DiMercato out in a league. I think, if I had to choose, he's the AZ running back that I'm going for. I think if Michael Carter is available, you should pick him up. if I had to choose between the two, just like you said, DeMarcado seems to be more of like the pass catching vibe for me.
Yeah.
I mean, he was even getting snaps last week with Benson in the lineup, and he got in the end zone. Now, I don't expect it to be some like 80-20 split for DeMarcado, but I would say it's probably going to be a little more like 55-40. And then like, I know they've talked about maybe using Bam Knight a little bit, but I wouldn't expect too much of it. But the beauty of playing Tennessee as a Tennessee fan is you're not getting game scripted out of that as a running back. You are going to be in that game because Tennessee's not going to blow the doors off your team. So expect him to run. And just like you said, I think this is one of those ones, if you added him because you needed running back help, you're putting him in your lineup for a reason this week. And same thing, I'm just going to mimic very same like logical premise here. Obviously, completely different matchup going up against Seattle for the Bucs, but no Bucky Irving this week. So Rachaad White should get that workload. And in general, in Rachaad White's career, when he gets the workload, he's been a very good player. No one's going to argue Rachaad White is better than Bucky Irving, but at times with running back, it is about volume. And even though I think the Seattle defense is like a tougher matchup, could be a high-scoring game, and I would expect White to be very involved. I was able to add him off waivers in one league, so he could be available depending on your league. Or, you know, if you're a Bucky Irving owner and you had White on the bench, I would feel confident throwing him in there as well.
Yeah, I think the Bucs have really tried to run the ball this year and had some decent success with it. And White has looked pretty good. I think as far as backup running backs go, he's probably one of the best in the league. So I think him stepping up into this role with Bucky gone, he's going to get a lot of volume. He's pretty solid. And, you know, Seahawks do have a good run D, but, you know, I think the Bucs are good enough to still be scoring points and for him to get some decent yards.
So now for the two like deeper plays of the week, our deep wide receivers. I know Andy and I usually try to pick a couple that tend to be like outside the top 40, 50 rankings even. Andy's going with Trey Tucker this week for the Raiders.
Yeah, massive breakout week 3, then nothing last week. So he's on waivers and around 50% of leagues, and I'm not projecting him to have another monster week, but this is a great matchup. Colts are 30th in points given up to wide receivers and 31st in terms of DVOA to wide receiver twos specifically. They've allowed the most yards and receptions to wide receiver twos out of any team. You know, Geno keeps letting me down whenever I pick him. Hopefully that doesn't extend to other players on the Raiders. But, you know, I think this is a week where Trey Tucker will see some targets. And, you know, hopefully he can continue his mini third-year breakout going on.
Yeah, I mean, also, like, from someone who watched, like, a good chunk of that Raiders game last week, like, Tucker didn't have, like, obviously his repeat week 3 performance. I don't think anyone saw that coming. But he was actually, like, involved in the offense. Like, they were targeting him. They're trying to get him the ball.
Yeah.
Last week was just, like, a strange week. Ashton Genty caught 2, like, passing touchdowns. Like, 2 receiving touchdowns. Like, that's probably not going to happen, like, most weeks. And if it does, all my Genty shares are going to love that. So I'll be rooting for that as well. My deep streamer of the week going to be Jalen Tolbert of Dallas. Basically, Dallas just like the most pass happy offense you can be because their defense is just absolutely horrendous. Probably going to be in another shootout. They gave up 40 last week, had to put up 40 themselves. For me, Jalen Tolbert had an okay game last week. So in that sense, he's already like a guy. If you're getting a little desperate, I don't hate throwing him out there. Also, Kevontae Turpin hasn't practiced yet this week. So maybe he does end up sitting. Like, we don't know the full roster report there. He could obviously practice today and end up playing, but maybe he's a little banged up. But in general, expect the Jets to maybe focus on Pickens like a little more this week just because of his monster game last week. So Tolbert's going to get his chances. Like, if you guys watched the night game last week with Dallas, he had one big play later in the game, and he did have another big shot that like he almost could have scored on. So like he's going to get some deep balls, and if he comes down with one, there's your flex play for the week.
Yeah. You know, with how beat up this receiver room is, like you said, if Turpin's not playing as well, Tolbert was out there for the second most snaps last week, and George Pickens cannot catch every single pass. So they're going to have to get it to at least another wide receiver, and I think Tolbert is the guy to do that. So,
and then to finish our show off today, Andy and I like to keep ourselves honest and let you guys know kind of how we're doing on the year. So here are our plays from last week. I had Niners, Sly, Wentz, Gadsden, Woody Marks, Travion and Golden. So I'm sitting at 10, 8, and 2, 50% on the DST hit rates. Andy had Jags, Reichert, Geno, Mason Taylor, Xavier Worthy, Chubb, Coleman. He's sitting at 6, 11, and 3, 1 and 1 DST hit rate, 0 for 2 kicker. So it's coming back with the kicker with the random position.
Oh yeah,
I'm going Reichert's hitting a 50-yarder, a 40-yarder, a couple extra points. So expect a big game from him. But in general, thank you guys for coming to our channel for Dynasty Drip Flex Friday. We love having you guys watch. Make sure to keep coming back. If there's anything you want to hear about more, feel free to hit us up in the comments. Make sure to subscribe, like the video. Andy, thanks for joining me, man.
Thanks for having me, brother.
And we will catch you guys next week for Flex Friday.